MRW, up or down, balls up, balls down, POD.
Which side is the sun, man? Are we serving?
Wait, which way is up?
Spin the racket.
Welcome back to Spin the Racket, the recreational tennis pod, covering everything from the Pro Tour to the everyday league player. I'm your boy G.
And I'm Lou.
Today we're joined by Matt Praviti, General Manager of HJK Ventures, one of the best adult tennis community builders in the country. He's a legit racket customization / stringing guru who's worked everywhere from top junior events all the way up to Indian Wells, where he's even strung Rafa Nadal sticks. Matt, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, guys. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, no, we're happy to have you. Really pumped here. So every episode, we always start with the same question. Would you rather have no serve or no forehand?
Oh my God. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret here. I don't really have a very good serve or forehand. So I probably would say no serve. There was a period of time where I had a really bad I was having some shoulder pain, and just to see if I could do it, I was just serving underhand just to drive my opponents nuts. And I think there's a case to be made for more people serving underhand. It's almost like the knuckleball of tennis, where like so few people have ever seen that or practiced against it that it would take them a set or two to even figure out what you're doing.
Yeah. I honestly wouldn't know what to do if I got underhand served. I'd be upset in the moment.
I've actually played against that before. It's very annoying, but it can be countered. I've got a buddy of mine it's kind of like, to your point, it does take a little bit of time to get used to, but once you kind of know the trick, it's like, well, I'd rather do return this in like 120 mile an hour flat serve, right? But it's tough. I did have kind of a friend that I don't know that he's listening to this, but Jared, if you're listening to this,
You're calling him out.
Calling him out, man.
Shout-outs.
Yeah, no, this guy had a shoulder issue, and he was under. It sucks though, because no one wanted to play with him because he kept serving, and he actually was pretty good. His ground strokes were solid, so he was beating folks with the underhand serve, like to your point, Matt. And it's a little embarrassing, right? It's kind of like a punch to the ego when you get beat by an underarm server.
Well, there's like and you know how there's like I think there's like 5 stages of grief or something like that. There's like 5 stages of coping with an underhand serve. Like at first, it's like a shock, and it's what was that?
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming. And then it's like you accept it. Like he's doing it again. Okay, interesting. All right. Then you have this bravado of like, this is going to be nothing. And like a set in, I would see people like really start to get upset. Like, this sucks.
Just hit a wall.
This isn't fun. I'm not good at this. You're laughing. And so my whole strategy as a player, I play mostly doubles, but my whole strategy as a player is I'm going to make you have the worst tennis day of your life. I'm going to show you how good I am. So this played perfectly into that.
Yeah.
And I say humbly that I've been very lucky to get off some upsets against some good players, even serving underhand. So there you go. A very long-winded answer.
Yeah, you sound like a nightmare to play. I don't want to play you.
Is that not the sign of a great player, right?
I guess.
I got to be honest with you guys. We don't know each other super well, but I try to be an outlier in the tennis industry. Everybody's saying the same things, the same comments, and I try to rethink problems that we think we've already solved and maybe end up in a new place. I'm excited to talk about that stuff involving equipment, but I think it's the same way with coaching. Like I said, I try to spend most of my time on the court, singles or doubles, making you uncomfortable. And that nets me better results than measuring how good I am against how good you are.
That is fair. Well, maybe take us, from the start. I mean, you don't have to give us your whole life story necessarily, but like, tell us the love of the game for you. Like, where did tennis start to kind of be that sport?
Well, my tennis life basically had 2 parts. The first of which was growing up in Connecticut. My dad has run tennis clubs his whole life. It's the only job he's ever had is as a tennis coach. And my mom has basically been by his side the whole time, managing the pros, running the pro shop, doing payroll, and doing a lot of back end things that allow a club to be successful. So I grew up around it, watching it. I'll never forget my summer schedule growing up as a kid at the tennis club was like the greatest thing. Drive into work with dad to take the Grand Prix class from 9 to noon. Then 3-week camp was what it was called because it lasted 3 weeks from noon to 1:30. Then you'd have lunch where we'd eat hot dogs and candy. Then 2 o'clock, we'd go back on the court for like an hour of games. Then junior team tennis at 3 o'clock to 5. 5 to 6, I'd watch dad teach a private, pick up the balls, home, do it all again the next day. And so just a wonderful upbringing with great family and parents. My brother plays a lot of tennis growing up, and then I decided after college, like, I think I want to do this as a career, and moved to San Diego. And that was really when the new phase, everything kind of started over. Nobody knew me out here. It's way more competitive out here on the West Coast. And I kind of had a reality check of what are the things that I bring to the table if I'm just starting fresh with a kind of a blank resume. I'd never coached anybody amazing. I certainly was not a player of note. I didn't play college tennis. I played number 2 my senior year in high school on the team. So just a very, very honest conversation of what do I have to offer that is competitive or maybe touches a certain part of the tennis market that other coaches don't. And I very quickly realized the equipment realm of things was something I was very curious about, interested in, and I still to this day find very few people that I'm impressed with how just how well versed they are in helping people to solve these complex problems. A million types of string, obviously lots of tensions, injuries, rackets, style of play, what they're trying to do now, what they're trying to do in the future. It's a very, very complex equation, and most of it I think is just marketing and sales crap. So, uh, I guess the thing I like to share with people that are curious about tennis equipment is that in 2009, I moved to San Diego and I bought my first stringing machine. And in 2014, that was the first year that I strung for Nadal at Indian Wells. It took me, and again, I've had some lucky breaks along the way. I've had some tremendous mentors who have helped me, but it kind of took me 5 years to go from nowhere, no name, nothing of note to, all right, I'm stringing for the top pros in the world and I'm stringing tens of thousands of rackets a year. And I think that, if anything, highlights how small of a community that is and how I don't know how to just say this because I don't say it with any ego, but how easy it is to become an expert in the sense that there's not a lot of depth to that part of our industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, fun fact or maybe sad fact, I've never strung a racket before. And
Gerard.
I know. I feel ashamed to admit that.
Me either. Me either. I've fiddled with the idea of buying my own stringer for a long time. Ever since I've been on my own, I feel like I've never had a ton of space to like where I could put it.
Okay.
I'm supposed to finally have space for it, and I've considered it, but now I'm at the point where my life is way too busy to pick up any new hobbies. I feel like,
Okay.
the
I
life
will
of
throw this out there. Just throwing this out there. If you love tennis, learning to string doesn't necessarily require you to buy a stringer, right? You can go to your local club, talk to your coach, go to a pro shop, get a little side gig. Trust me, you throw a stringer $100, they'll spend 2 hours with you teaching you how to string. But it gives you an incredible knowledge of what the moving parts are and allows you to, it'd be like if you know nothing about like over-the-counter medicines. You don't know how to make yourself feel better at all when you're sick. But if you at least understand NyQuil will make me sleepy, DayQuil, I could take that and go to work, like Advil if I'm in pain. We all have a basic understanding of that. You now have more tools to solve some of those problems when you're sailing balls long or
Yep.
diagnosing even what's happening mid-match. You know what I could do? I have a racket that's strung a little tighter. I should go switch to that, and that might yada, 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 yada. So
Yeah.
I would
That's
just
a good
say
point.
you guys are leaving some advantage on the table by skipping over that,
Fair enough.
I love that analogy. And yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a good idea actually, Lou. Maybe we just go up to like Bitsy Grant and see if we can, spend an hour or two just trying to like learn how to string, get that on video. I feel like it'd be kind of a
I
fun
think, yeah,
little,
I think
reel.
we already kind of fiddle with that idea. Our buddy Corey from Premier Racket Sports might be up for the challenge.
Cool.
I mean, yeah, he's been stringing my rackets now, so that could be one of those things that we do as part of content for our viewers. I'll take you up on the challenge, Matt.
Let's see. Couldn't hurt. People. This is such a
the
funny
more
thing.
you know.
Such a funny thing with tennis. People are willing to spend literally tens of thousands of dollars and tens of thousands of hours on a ball machine or taking a lesson as if these coaches are the gurus of all. They control all tennis skill, and they won't do something as simple as changing their tension, trying a thinner gauge, adjusting what string you use. These are throwing some lead tape on your racket. These cost nothing. They're instantaneous. They're reversible. And yet people are they're told you have to spend, I need a private lesson twice a week for the next 3 years. Then you will be good.
So what's your take on like technique versus equipment? Like, well, how do you balance that, right? Because I know you can also have people that are like, well, I've got the latest, I got the greatest, and I should be playing better because of this. So do you think it's like, is there a better overall? Is there a better for a specific type of person? And how do you cope with equipment versus technique and all that? Because I know I get your point, but there's also, I mean, people have to learn how to swing, right? And they need to learn the technique. So at what point do you draw a line? Or
Lou, I would disagree with you right there. And again,
Okay.
that's my East Coast smart aleck skeptic speaking up. What I would say to you is this: the ball and the court don't care. They don't care equally what kind of racket you use, what brand it is, how recently it was strung. They don't care who your coach is or how much money you spend. But is it quicker? And I think this is a fair, honest question. Is it quicker for you to go and tweak your backhand to be different in a certain situation, which might not even come up many times in a match? Or is it quicker for you to get your racket restrung tighter? It's certainly quicker and cheaper. I mean, I think the thousands of hours, the time it takes to manipulate your game, if you have served, I'm making this up, but let's say you hit with an Eastern grip forehand, and you got a coach who says you need to hit more topspin, so we're going to switch you to semi-Western, which it sounds like it's not that big of a change. That is thousands of balls
it's a
hit
huge change
to make an
I've done
adjustment.
it.
As opposed to stringing your racket looser so you can get some more height over the net, which, by the way, happens immediately. And if you don't like it, you can change it back and there's no risk. My comment to most people is this: we have to rethink the problems they think we have all the answers to. One of them, and I hear this a lot when it comes to injury, is technique is everything. And if you've been around tennis long enough, you start to realize there are a lot of outliers that are world-class players, or at least just people who are better at your level, that don't have a certain technique, never had a certain coach. How many world-class players we have seen through the history of our sport that their first lessons were just hitting on the wall while their mom or dad was teaching a lesson or taking a lesson, or they grew up in an impoverished country and they had to take tennis lessons in an empty swimming pool. The right conditions, the right technique, the right swing is so relative. And quite frankly, I think a lot of people are just chasing something that they'll never find, right? So I've said to many of my students before, if I could give you Serena's forehand, you would still make the same choices that you're making with Serena's forehand. So yeah, you'd beat the 3-5s you're playing against, but at some point you'd play people who also have Serena's forehand and they'd win. So it can take you so far. And, I'll summarize my point with this. And this is, Gerard and I met at this great tennis conference, this Impact conference in Texas. It was all about growing the game. I think there are a lot of people out there that want to be the best version of themselves, not someone else. and a lot of tennis coaches and our tennis industry is selling you on being someone better. And I think that that's just not for everybody. I think it's fun to do if you're into that, but there's a lot of people that just want to be a better version of themselves as a player. And I think that's easier and quicker and less expensive to achieve by manipulating your equipment when that's possible. Very long-winded answer. I apologize, but it's
I mean, I gave you like a 3-part question. So
yeah, it's a complex, tennis equipment is not simple. I don't know how to
Right.
say it, that my job, if I'm giving somebody guidance, is to make it sound easier and simpler. And I think that's why online you see a lot of people that are just regurgitating stuff that is so complicated and so just you'd have to be a scientist to figure it out. And yet most of it isn't based in science,
Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like nowadays there's so much information. We get so lost in the weeds that it's people forget there's like these big levers to pull. It's all about mastering the basics. In almost any discipline, it's about doing the basic things really well and becoming, like you said, becoming an expert at a few things rather than trying to talk about well, what's your racket speed going to be like, or what's your launch angle and all this stuff that it's like, dude, just swing through the ball. The fundamentals are always going to be the same, right? You still need to be hitting the ball at a certain speed. You still got to be this distance away from the ball. Your feet have to be a certain way. Like those things are never going to change. But at some point, are you chasing like technique perfection, or to your point, is there a lever to pull from uh, unlocking like the equipment side? So like what I hear from you is that at some point you've got to pull on a different lever, right? So I think if the way that you kind of dissected this thing is, you mentioned one thing that to me stood out is you can have the best forehand in the world, but if you don't make the right choices, if you don't have the right tennis IQ, then you're going to get beaten by somebody that has theoretically the same forehand or of equal quality, that chooses the better ball. So, from what I heard from you, as tennis IQ is a big lever to pull, technique is obviously a big lever to pull. I would argue that physicality or conditioning is another big lever, but then you
Sure.
mentioned equipment choice is another lever to pull. Do you think, would you rank them like equally, or would you say one's more important than the other?
Here's the I've caught a lot of flack in my career from people that don't like that I'll speak out against technique. I'm not saying having technique isn't important. I'm saying it's not as important as we say it is. So
It's not just one
I see a
problem.
lot of people. This is a, I'd say, monthly occurrence. I will meet someone who's, let's say, uh, over 60 crowd, where they're in the let's enjoy our tennis career, let's sustain our level as we get older. And they will say to me straight, they've been playing for 20 or 30 years. My coach is redoing my forehand. And I'm like, you've been playing
Yeah.
for 40 years. You got a forehand. You can make it better. You can make better choices. You could be in better shape. You could, again, have better targets, better decision making. I'm not saying having good technique wouldn't help that person, but they're making it like this is my only option right now, is to start from scratch as a 40-year lover of the sport. And I feel like that's a little bit, it's irresponsible, and it's just, like you said, the wrong lever to be pulling. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, like, are you gonna hate the sport for like 5 years while you rebuild your forehand, if it even like yields a good result?
That's exactly right. So great. This is one I hear all the time. I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Oh, I'm learning to hit more topspin. So what? So you still make the same choices. You're still the same body. You're still on the same team at the same club with more topspin. What is that guaranteeing you? And so, I just approach things again from like let's look at this differently kind of way. What would be something you could invest that same time and money in that either might make you a tougher competitor, it might give you better experience, it might quiet your mind. Maybe we're working on you being less nervous, anxious. How about you got to stop telling yourself you need to be better? I'm a good player. I mean, now we're getting into tennis therapy, but like, I'm already a good player. I don't need to be someone else. I just need to, in crunch time, make smarter choices. Maybe we spend that money going on a fun tennis trip and we learn to love competition again. So I'd like to think of myself, this is not really a culturally appropriate movie anymore. I'd like to think of myself a little bit as a Miyagi of tennis, if that makes sense. Where it's like, yeah, you don't have to be the biggest, toughest, baddest dude on the street. We're going to kind of, we're going to defy the odds and make some different choices and hopefully get some different results. So yeah, to your point, Lou, ranking those things, I think the tough thing, and again, I focus mostly on adult players now in my daily business, but I work with a lot of juniors on their equipment. I think the tough thing is that I'm not the guy to come to talk about improving your physicality. I'm not a trainer, and quite frankly, tennis is my exercise. So that's kind of like down on the list. But if you want to do that, you could certainly have a lot to gain. I think the psychology, the decision making, the mindset is right up there. And I'll give you a great example. There are I coach a ton of beginners at our facilities here in San Diego. We have the largest adult beginner program in, I'm pretty sure, all of Southern California. And we see a lot of people who played college sports show up on day one to play with the orange balls, and they're immediately better than everybody else. They don't have good technique. They're in great shape. Even if they're not in great shape, they understand what it means to compete. They're shutting off and quieting their mind when they play. And immediately, coaches are like, yeah, you're going to be great. You're not there yet, but you're going to be great. That's something they learned doing something that has nothing to do with tennis, some other sport, some other activity. So the mindset psychology is big. But I think the equipment's big too. And I'll give you a very small example about that. I have had the pleasure of working with so many players that I would never coach. Like I've never thought of myself as a world-class, high-level coach, but I get to work with these world-class players talking about their equipment. This discussion comes up a lot where I have to kind of help people to decide what's more important to them, because tennis players want everything. I want a great forehand and a great backhand. I want to have a bomb serve and the best returns. So one of the things I have to parse out is which priority is more important to you. And I ask this question a lot. Here's the question. You could choose one of two scenarios. Either you are playing the best tennis you have ever played in your entire life. You cannot miss. You feel like you could beat anybody. And you are in complete and total agony while doing that and after you come off the court. Or your body feels better than it ever has, injury-free, pain-free, you could play for days, but you're not playing your best. Which would you choose? And, for somebody who's a high-level tournament player, people who are traveling a lot, juniors who are playing ITF tournaments, pros, a lot of college players that have left college and now are on their own trying to make it on the pro tour, the answer should be very clear, which is you should choose the second scenario, which is if your body feels good, we could find your timing. We could tweak adjustments to your equipment or your strings or your game, your style of play. We could change all that. But I have met so many players that are like, yeah, I'm playing the lights out and I cry when I go to bed every night. Or this is unsustainable. I need another. How many sad stories I've heard of players that are like, yeah, I need another back surgery. I can't do this much longer. So the irony is, jokingly, they all say, how about that first scenario? And it's like, you have to choose your health and your body first, because we could make you play better, help with the results, train hard, whatever you want to do. But you cannot begin in the place of like, I'm in agony. And that helps me to sort of gently guide them to like, right, so I need to make some choices that maybe they aren't great for my game, but they're better for my long-term health and allow me to stay on the court longer.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can resonate as a 30-year-old now with that statement, right? With that scenario where, once you've lived long enough, you go through a few things, you start feeling your body kind of slow down. And I think you appreciate, I think this past weekend, we played some league matches, and I hit a moment where I was like, I'm just happy to be here. I am so glad that I'm just able to play the sport that I love, that I've got two working feet, two working hands, and I just get to do this, whether win or lose. It was great to be able to win, but win or lose, I was just happy to be outside, getting some sun, getting some movement, being able to play the sport, play well. Thankfully, that obviously helped, but and I think that played a part into how well I played, just because I didn't have a ton of expectations. That kind of was filling up for one of our buddies that woke up sick. And so I wasn't supposed to play that day. I was supposed to be out of town, and I just kind of showed up and was like, all right, I'm here. I'm ready to play. And at some moment, I caught myself grinning as I was bouncing the ball before a serve. And that's when I knew. I was like, dang, this is great. I'm just glad I get to play.
Well, I got bad news for you, buddy. You're 30 years old and you're questioning how your body feels. It's coming, Lou. I got bad news.
I know it's downhill from here.
Better
Yeah.
stock in ibuprofen now, brother.
Yeah.
Jesus, you're gonna hit a point. I don't know. I don't think you guys have been there yet, because Gerard, you're pretty young too. You're gonna get to a point where you take the Advil before you play. That's a real, like, it's coming no matter what. You're not like, let's see how today goes. Like, clock it in, meloxicam. Let's go, baby. Get into the knees.
I didn't know what PT was until I mean, I did know it obviously as a junior, but I'll tell you, I was a junior burnout. So I burned out at 17, played could have made something with tennis, but I just burned out. I quit for 10 years. I picked it back up at 27, and when I picked it back up, I always tell G this, like, I weighed 50 pounds more. I had more muscle. It was like I was a 17-year-old tennis player stuck in a 27-year-old body. And so I've had to apply a lot of the psychological growth that I've had in other areas of my life over those 10 years into my tennis, because I also felt like I was kind of starting to replicate the patterns that I had as a 17-year-old. But also, one of the things that I didn't realize is, hey, my body's no longer 17, and I am now playing lights out, like you said, 3 to 5 times a week, as I became obsessed with tennis again. And all of a sudden, my body starts breaking down because, hey, you're doing all this stuff and you're not doing any recovery. You're not stretching.
No warm up, none of that.
None of that. So yeah, lots of PT sessions and all that, and lessons learned. So at 30, I'm now 31. At 31, I feel like I'm a lot healthier than I was at 27 or 28. Lessons learned, obviously.
Gerard, tell the truth. Are you stretching before you go play a match?
Yeah. No,
Dynamic warm-up?
I'm all about that now.
Wow,
I feel like it's probably
can catch
like
on the IG. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably like the last like year or two I got like really serious about it, but I feel it now. If I don't warm up and I hop on the court, play a match, and then like don't stretch afterwards, it's just like I'm walking around like a tin man, and it's not fun.
It also takes you a set to warm up, and then like you're forfeiting the first set. I feel like it takes a good 45 minutes if you're not warming up. That first set, you're just so cold. At the same time.
Sure. That's like the classic tennis pro thing, right? Is like between meetings, between lessons. Hey, let's go play a set. You're like, all right, we got an hour. What? Let's just jump right in. And and then you actually really regret that later on, but you only had an hour, so there you go.
Yeah. That's rough. What's like the most, I guess, frustrating or concerning myth you hear regarding equipment, like strings, racket, whatever it is? Like, what do you hear out there?
Gerard, that's a great question. I think there's many. There's a lot of things that we still say that don't really apply, right? The world. You think about how the tennis player and the game is played, how they have changed over the last, let's say, 50 years, right? I think about the body type of someone like Arthur Ashe or Jimmy Connors, these long, thin athletes, these players. And then you look at somebody like a Nadal or a Murray or a Del Potro or just some of these big, bulky, even just the way they work out is so different. The way they strike the ball is so different. And so the equipment is different. Let's not even get into that. And then we still say the same old tropes and old wives' tales about equipment. And I'll give you like the biggest one. So here's a shout out. I should be getting commission on this shout out, but I won't. The book that changed, if you love tennis equipment or you don't know anything about it, you should go and buy the book called Technical Tennis. It's by Rod Cross and Crawford Lindsay. These guys are physicists, and it's from like the maybe early 2000s. Back then, every string package on the back had like a 10 out of 10 power, 8 out of 10 control. And these two were like, who's doing this testing? And what is the units of measurement? And none of this makes sense. And they wrote a book where they did a lot of double-blind testing on things. You realize how much stuff we say and put a lot of faith and money into in tennis equipment is completely unscientific and kind of just made up. So like stringing tight for power, tight for control and loose for power is something we used to say when people played with wood rackets. And everybody had a long linear stroke and the game was serve and volley. Not only does that not apply, but like for instance, in technical tennis, they talk about how they actually recorded, I think it was like 7 different definitions of what people were referencing when they talked about something having a lot of power, how fast they were hitting, how far the ball went, the sound it made. So it's not a very accurate way to describe anything. And you start to think about, even on my end, I think about when we say stringing tight for control and loose for power. In some ways, if we do a little thought experiment, that has been reversed, you could make the case, right? Putting a lot of spin on the ball nowadays makes you a very accurate player. Well, we know that stringing looser produces more spin. So looser, in some ways, you could argue creates more control than tighter. And I would say that the looser we string, or excuse me, the tighter we string, the lower the launch angle off of your racket. That's a physics thing. The flatter it makes you hit, the faster your ball will travel to its destination. So in a weird way, you could make the case tighter would allow you to. So then let's just throw the whole thing out and never, ever say it again. So I again, that's kind of my point. I'm not here to tell you I have the definitive answer. I'm just here to make you go, that's a great point. And when I go to the pro shop and the stringer or the coach tells me that so assuredly, like they have the right answer, that should give you pause and make you go, maybe this person doesn't know what they're talking about. And they're just saying the same old thing they said for 30 years. So that's a big one for me, talking about control versus power. It's not effective to use those terms, and certainly stringing tight is not the answer if you're missing a lot of balls, and stringing loose is not the answer if you want to hit harder necessarily. I'll give you again another small answer that kind of like reframes this. I have a lot of people. Okay, bear with me here. This is going to get a little complicated. Junior tennis players, this has been said a lot. Junior tennis players hit ground strokes that tend to land on the service line of the opponent, right? This is like a generalization. College players hit ground strokes that land in no man's land. Pro players hit balls that land on the baseline. So one thing I talk about all the time with players is an easy way to get you to hit the ball faster and more effectively is just to string looser, where it lengthens how far your shots are going and kind of dial it in to where you're effortlessly hitting to the opponent's baseline. The key word there being effortlessly. If stringing tighter gives you more control, why do we not string rackets at 80 pounds anymore? Wouldn't that give you the most control? No, because we know the tighter we go, every pound we go up, the more effort it takes to send that ball to its destination. And Gerard and Lou, I would ask you, how accurate are you when you are swinging as hard as you possibly can? Less accurate. So is that not one of the things we talk about with pros that's so inspiring, how effortless they make it look? So my, again, end around result here is, if you want to play more effortlessly like pros, you should string your rackets looser. And a lot of people's first answer is, well, they'll go out. And my comment to you is, do less work. So you see how this sort of methodology and this thinking is like, yeah, you're 100% right. I'm afraid of missing balls. Maybe I work too hard. Maybe that's why I work. I'm sweating. I'm drenched. I'm ripping. None of my ground strokes scare my opponent, or they're landing short and they step in and attack them. So again, my goal here is not to tell you I've solved everything. It's just to reassess, oh, that's another way of looking at it, and it's not the traditional way.
That's crazy. I'm in that journey, Matt, by the way, of
Interesting.
lowering my string tension.
What were you at?
59.
Jesus Christ. Okay, where are you now?
56.
Okay, hold on a second.
56.
That's
And
oh my God. That's
well,
like, I used to be an alcoholic. I only have 5 drinks before breakfast now. So it's good. We're all good here, folks.
we're making progress. I am in that I made the realization, right, that obviously if I want to, like, I just noticed as an adult, if I wanted to play a high level and play lights out, like it was taking so much effort to just generate power.
Sure.
I had great control, right? But if like in the moment I got tired, the balls just they landed, but they got short.
Gee,
And
he can't help himself.
So what?
Because you're talking power and control again.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up with that school of thought, right? So, anyways, I realized in order for me,
I know we've thrown you off here, Lou. I'm picking on you, but I get
you're
the
good.
point, which is there is an adjustment to be made. Everything in tennis equipment is an experiment,
Right.
and if you're liking the results, again, my challenge to people is, what's possible if you went further?
Right.
So, Lou, I want to ask you a question, and this is a question I ask people all the time. And again, it's just to make you rethink what you think you know.
Okay.
How do you play with a racket that's strung at 35? How did you play when you strung your racket at 35 pounds?
I didn't.
So maybe you would be ridiculously good. You've just never even tried it. And I say this from personal experience, right? I used to play with the Babolat Pure Storm Limited. It was like an 1820 super. I have a terrible one-handed backhand. I used to play with this Racket Babolat sent me. I don't know why, because I felt special. Strung at 58.5 pounds. I don't know why I did that. I thought it was super cool. And bottom line was, I realized I always liked rackets that were in my bag that had been sitting in there for a while, which now I could kind of look back and go, yeah, because they probably lost some tension sitting in there. And I got to a place where I was stringing. I'll never forget, I was stringing at the Easter Bowl, and there were like, most of the kids were in the same category, string tension and level and all that kind of stuff. And there were like 2 camps. There were all these kids from Indianapolis that trained with Brian Smith, who famously coached Rajiv Ram, and Samir Kumar, who played at Stanford. Ronnie Schneider played at North Carolina. All these great kids. They all strung in like 74 pounds, even in the 12 and unders, which was one camp. And then there was another group of people that were stringing in the 30s and the 40s. And I remember talking and asking all these questions, and it just kind of hit me like, I've never even done that. What would that look like? What would that feel like? Maybe I'd be playing in the Easter Bowl. Maybe not, because I was a fully grown adult at that point, but maybe I would be this good if I channeled some of that. And the truth was, I had never even experimented. And only now, as a 42-year-old who coaches and plays just for fun, some tournaments, but I'm not trying to go pro, I cannot play with a racket strung over 40 pounds. It feels completely foreign to me and way too stiff. And I've adjusted my game and my play style to where I like to play effortlessly. I like to do a lot of slicing. Like I told you, I'm kind of earlier, I like to ruin people's day with a lot of uncomfortable shots, so I slice a lot. But just feels more natural to me to play with a looser strung racket. If I was still in the 50s, I never would have experienced that. So when I sit down with a client for the first time, as I'm doing here with you, Lou, I would say, you don't know what you like until you know what you don't like. And the only way you figure that out is through experimentation.
Yeah, I've played with rackets in the 40s. It took some adjustment.
Okay.
So it wasn't, I will tell you, it was not as terrible. It was not as much of a rocket ship or a rocket launcher as I thought it would be.
Yep.
But definitely, and maybe this is what's happened is I like to say I am very sensitive to string tension. I can tell when my balls are consistently going a foot longer than they need to, and I need to go a little. But that's the thing. I haven't had a lot of time to like experiment and potentially just adjust right? Because you're always like, especially when you're playing league, it's really hard to just all of a sudden, let's say, go down 5-10 pounds, and then that not cross your confidence when you're playing a competitive, any sort of competitive tennis. So,
Yeah.
to your point, I think I've been intentional about going down and down and further down. And during the winter time, I'll go a little bit further down, like 55 or so. But that's still kind of, I'm trying to inch my way in there because I know it's going to bring me more longevity where I have to produce less effort. And as I get older, I'll get adjusted to that where I can play better tennis without having to go 100%, right? But it just takes time.
I think that's a good way of putting it. I think that, again, if I'm sitting down with one particular player or person whose game I know very well, I can be a little more targeted in what I think maybe the answers are. But what I want to leave you guys and our viewers with here is this sense of questioning everything. Why does the stringer? So here's a great discussion I have with people all the time. Hey, this is your racket. This is your string. We're on court. Why do you use that setup? And all the time, the answer may be something along the lines of, well, that's what the stringer told me to use. And my response to that, not to hate on stringers because I'm one of them, have they ever seen you play? How do they know what you need? How do they know who you are? Oh, I told them. Are you a good judge of who you are and what you need?
Most tennis players aren't.
Yeah, I hit a lot of topspin. And I'm like, what are you smoking? You hit a lot of topspin. Well, they think they hit a lot of topspin. So here's my point. If you have a headache, I'm the king of analogies. I love a good analogy. If you have a headache, you don't go ask the pharmacist what's wrong. You go to a doctor and they look at your test results and they help determine, is it a brain tumor or is it dehydration? And that affects what you should do. It's one of the reasons I humbly say I feel like I've been more successful in the stringing and equipment realm than a lot of people is because I'm also a coach. And a lot of stringers are great pharmacists. They can give you exactly what you need in specific ways, and they think through all the iterations. As soon as they start giving me advice on what I should do, I'm like, dude, you've never seen me hit. You're a 3-0 player yourself. So understanding that, I think that's a good question, is right. Taking the stringer's advice with a grain of salt. Same way that if you walked up to a coach and you said, hi, you don't know me. What could I do to be better? And they said, swing harder. It's like, you'd be like, what? You don't even know who I am. Well, why do we give the stringer all of that power to completely change what we need as if they're the oracle of truth or something like that, you know?
So would you say that the system is kind of broken because there's like kind of a huge moat between player, coach, and let's just say pro shop, stringer, all that kind of stuff? And how do we solve for that?
Yeah, it's a dangerous Bermuda Triangle, right? Where generally you have players. Remember, even the top pros hire a coach because you can't watch yourself. And having somebody see you do it is different than your felt experience, right? Anybody who's ever had a friend who's dating somebody that's a nightmare, you know, when you're in love with that nightmare, you're like, you know, this is so great. And your friends are like, yeah, I don't know if you see this, but this is terrible. It's the same on the tennis court. So getting a coach's perspective, having somebody watch you, even just knowing what you're trying to achieve. Again, I want to hit more topspin. Yeah, that's great. So the player is I think the most important person because it's your experience, it's your dollar. You're going to reap the benefits. It's your body that's going to struggle if you make a risky choice. Generally, coaches are trying to, and again, this is something that's almost never talked about. Coaches are trying to be successful in business. And so they want to see you happy. They want to see you healthy. They also want to drive sales for their pro shop. So like, hey, that's why I'm sponsored by this company is because they hooked me up. So I want to sell a lot of their rackets. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just saying that it's good to remember. And then the third part again is the stringer. And I think my experience having worked with and met thousands of stringers is generally, again, they're not coaches. So even if they were coaches, they haven't seen you play or hit. And your sort of assessing testimony is not that reliable.
No.
So I just love the way you said it, Lou. It's kind of a little bit of a broken system where everyone is relying on someone else, right? You get a coach who goes, yeah, I don't know, you need that racket restrung. Go to the stringer, he'll tell you. Then the stringer tells you something that works for some. I got this other guy who loves this setup. Great, okay. Or Nadal uses this. Yeah, again, that's not very helpful. And so you get, or you're trusting Tennis Warehouse or Tennis Express, and those people on there are just marketing experts. They're not equipment experts, as hard as they try to be. I don't want to sound rude, but again, they'll talk power. I've never seen a negative review on one of those websites. That's how you know that you're being sold some snake oil. I've never seen them say, this is not a good racket.
Right.
This is a bad racket. You shouldn't play with this.
That's true.
Man, let me tell you,
true.
I'm making a lot of enemies today. But when you're on Spin the Racket,
yeah, let it fly.
You got to give
we're
the
gonna
truth.
do
Yeah.
like a behind the curtain Spin the Racket feature.
That's right.
No holds barred.
Hey. All right, you gotta at least before you go, tell us the story around Indian Wells. So, I talked about it in the intro that you got to string Rafa Nadal's rackets. What was that experience like being a stringer at a pro tournament like that?
So I moved to California in 2009, like I said, bought a stringing machine, realized very quickly I was working at a tremendous facility surrounded by great coaches, and just kind of realized it's going to take me a long time to have a resume that competes, and a skill set as a coach that competes with some of these other tremendous coaches. So I got to get involved in something else. And I got into stringing. I started stringing tournaments at this club I was working at. And I had a buddy who just the lining of the stars. He was working at the club where they held the Easter Bowl. And he said, listen, I think they're going to get rid of the stringing team. They didn't really like the way they did it. I might say, I'll put together a team. Would you want to do it with me? And I was just young and dumb enough to be like, yeah, how hard could this be? And so we took over the stringing. I look back and I don't want to say I cringe because I don't really have any regrets, but I think like, man, we were just going in blind. I think that first Easter Bowl, in about 8 days, we strung like 600 rackets, which, having never done probably more than 10 or 15 in a day, was just like brutal. And you're young and you're trying to save money. So we're like woofing down hot dogs over the rackets, like on a 2-second break. I think I gave myself plantar fasciitis in like a week, just ending all day. So, but every year we would string that Easter Bowl. There was this guy who would come around and kind of like, oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm a stringer myself. And he was always very polite. His name was Casey Moss. And I think the second year I admit, hey, you're last year. Yeah, Casey. What do you do, Casey? Oh, I'm one of the stringers at Indian Wells. And immediately all of us were like, okay, we gotta talk to this guy, because the Easter Bowl's fun. But that's the dream, right? Is like to achieve a level where you get to do something with the pros. And I'll never forget one year, Casey came in, this is maybe year 3 or year 4. Casey came into the Easter Bowl stringer room, and I said, hey, are you going to be here tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll be here tomorrow. And basically I was like, I'm going to get us Subway sandwiches. What's your order? And so I got him a little Subway sandwich. And we sat down. I think it was the first break I'd ever taken at the Easter Bowl. We sat outside and ate sandwiches. And I was like, Casey, listen, you've always been very nice, very helpful. Jason, who was kind of my stringing partner, and I will do anything to string at anyone. We would just even work the desk. We'll pick up the little strings on the ground, like whatever. We'll work security, whatever you need. And basically at some point he was like, listen, we do need some desk people. You guys seem like you're not total buffoons. So why don't you guys come and work with us? And my buddy Jason Wood and I were over the moon, and we rolled up, and it was like, I'm very lucky to say I've had a very comfortable life. It was tough. I'm sure somebody who's done some serious stuff, was in the military, life or death situations, would be like, how is that tough? But for Southern Connecticut tennis pro Matt Praviti, it was a grind. Like, we would start stringing at like 4 or 5 in the morning and wouldn't stop till 1 or 2 in the morning. And those are just long days. It's a lot of rackets. the level of care at a tournament like that is obviously way higher. So even just specifically, I would do tournaments by myself, some lower level pro tournaments and junior tournaments where I would have all the players cut out their own strings. So I'm being handed payment and a racket that's bare. All I'm doing is installing strings. At Indian Wells, you're taking all of their multiple rackets, 4, 5, 6 rackets sometimes, and even making note of where the knots are, what kind of knots are being used, the way they like there's a lot more natural gut on the Pro Tour. So the way they like their natural gut to be handled or pre-stretched. Then you're stenciling the rackets, which again, at junior tournaments, I wouldn't do because that's kind of a waste of time. Then you're bagging the rackets there. So each racket, just the same stringing now with all this extra stuff is going from, 18 minutes to 35 minutes or longer. And then don't even get me started on just the nerves of like, okay, this is, literally the first year. This is actually the funny story of how I actually did Nadal's racket. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'm working the desk. Jason and I have not strung any rackets yet because we're just kind of the desk people. And there was a guy working on the team who kept going out to watch matches when he wasn't busy. And basically, the guy who was running the stringing room, who was a great mentor of mine, his name's Dave Mendel. He's just a fiery personality. And so at one point he like screams like, all right, this dude is out. Like, Praviti, be ready. And I'm like, okay, I want, oh man, I'd love to string a racket. So Nadal rolls up. And to give you some perspective at that time, there was a hierarchy of stringers. So they would go to Casey, who's legendary. Casey first, hey, do you want to take on this player and take the responsibility of getting the rackets back on time and if they need more rackets? And Casey, having the first option, was full. So he would have, oh, sorry, my docket is full. They go to the next person. So there's a little bit of like I don't want to say a greedy scenario, but stringers are trying to keep themselves busy. And Nadal had said, hey, I need these rackets back like in 2 hours. So number 1 guy, busy. Number 2 guy, busy. Number 3 guy, can't do it. 4 guy. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, oh God, there's an open machine.
Yep.
And Nadal is like pacing, and you could tell Dave's like, next. Praviti, you're up. Wow. You got to do them right now. So when you think about it, the first rackets I ever strung at Indian Wells were Nadal's rackets. And just like measuring the string, I remember having one of those moments where I'm like, I don't remember what I'm doing. Like just went ice cold.
Yeah,
and it's a lot of respect. I have respect for people who do that. I have respect for those players. Yeah, so then at that point it was like, all right, let's give Matt some other stuff. And then at one point Jason got in on the fun, and then we were part of the team. And it's just one of those things where I always describe stringing a tournament kind of like a road trip, where you're in the same room with the same people and not a whole lot is going on. If you're a proficient stringer, your brain is just kind of like elsewhere. And so we just talk tennis, talk strategy, talk equipment, talk, pro tennis and stories. I mean, how many hilarious stories I've heard throughout the years of like ridiculous things happening that you're like, oh, we spent a week in the same exact spot for a week straight. So yeah, that was just one of those things in my career. I thought I wanted to be a professional stringer and travel full time and do that. I'm kind of glad my career has evolved because I love where it's at running clubs here in San Diego. But it was such an enlightening experience as far as the grind it took to be successful there. And from someone like my mentor, Casey, where, teaching me things about equipment that I never would have thought of. And I got to take that and apply that to not just our pro shops in San Diego, but our students and how they can prevent injury, how they can hear some of the things pros hear about their equipment that your average player doesn't have that conversation very often.
Yep. No, that's incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. That's why we're here. Like, Spin the Racket is meant to bring a lot of these conversations forward into, our listeners, which are mainly recreational players, right? To your point, like, there's a lot of conversations that are had at the pro level that don't really people don't have a way to trickle them down to how does this apply to to my game, or how does this apply to a recreational player? So, I mean, we
Yeah.
appreciate you kind of bridging that gap a little bit.
Well, I'll just say, even like I feel like stories. There's so many fun stories out there that highlight that maybe give perspective on normal players, normal people as well. And I'll give you a very, very quick one here. One of the years I was at Indian Wells, one of my favorite players ever was a guy named Nikolai Davydenko, who arguably had the greatest run at the year-end championships one year, where he, like, I think Djokovic, Nadal, Federer was there. I think Tsonga, maybe Del Potro, like he won the whole thing. And one year at Indian Wells, Davydenko showed up early, and what would happen a lot is players will drop off a racket or two, get them strung, kind of test what that tension feels like, and then make adjustments. But we also had diagnostic equipment. So a Babala RDC, a scale, we had lead tape. That way the players could make adjustments, measure their rackets. They were always getting shipped new rackets. So that was just kind of like a station we had. And I'm not kidding you. There was a period of like 5 days where Davydenko spent the entire day in the stringing room, fiddling and toying with his rackets. He used to do this thing where, like, if he had like a little speck of paint was missing, he would take lead tape and like almost like mold it into, like, to kind of spackle over, because his thought was that weight is now missing. It's gone. So I want to replace that. And that year he had like 40 rackets strung and had to pay for them, and pulled out before the first round. Didn't even play. What a great example how prevalent getting too in the weeds on your equipment can be at all levels. And again, this is a guy who was better than 99.9% of people who have ever played our sport. But kind of like a sad story when you think about it, that he was like that. I wonder what would have happened if he had spent that much time doing fitness or hitting balls or just enjoying his life. I don't know. It certainly didn't lead to more success, is my point.
Yeah.
And so it's a valuable lesson that even the pros fall victim to, hyper focusing on some things that might not lead to that success,
Yeah, the small levers, splitting hairs.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about you, Lou, but I feel inspired to go string a racket here at some point.
Did I send you some string, Gerard? I'm pretty sure I did.
You did. Yes. Yes.
You tried it yet?
I haven't tried it yet. No, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but I do have it. I'm ready to go. We're gonna go to Corey's store and we're gonna figure this out.
What's your tension? What's your setup, Gerard? What do you got?
So at the moment, I have Luxilon 4G.
Okay, what gauge? The most important question somebody could ever ask about string. What thickness is it?
16 gauge.
You break a lot of strings?
I don't.
So let me throw this out there. If we're here, we might as well talk about it. The only reason you would use a thicker string is if you break a lot of strings. All of the benefits come from a thinner string. Thinner strings produce more spin. Thinner strings feel softer. Thinner strings take less effort to cup the ball when you hit it. So my counsel to you would be that you might be leaving something on the table by going with the thickest possible gauge. And that's why I believe I sent you some thinner gauges. Did I?
Yeah. I think you sent at 17. I think I have 18 as well. So yeah, no, I was talking to Lou about it. We have a whole thing planned. We're going to film it, try out different rackets with it, make some content. So you'll see it soon. I'll tag you.
And let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Right? It's
for sure.
Experiment.
Yeah. No, I'm pumped for it.
Okay. And what racket you got?
Wilson Blade 98. Okay. Yeah.
1820 or 1619?
1820.
Why? Don't say the C word.
It was I had some kind of group chat with some friends, and we were kind of going back and forth about it, and they're like, "Yeah, do this one." And I was like, "All right,
okay,
so,
all right." Feels a little arbitrary to me, but okay, whatever. I don't even know what level you guys are. What? I'm doing the thing I do. I've never seen you hit. You guys could be. I'm sure you guys are former college stars. You hit a huge ball, just ripping shots all day.
Lou all day, yeah.
Sweat dripping.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Bandanas, gold chains everywhere.
Nah.
And Lou, remind me, what are you working with?
So I have got 16 gauge
Okay.
RPM blast.
Okay.
I switched recently from Solenko Hyper G. Recently within like the past like year and a half, but I kind of like just a simple poly. I do break at 17 and 16L. I've experimented with all that. My stringer, when I picked up tennis again, put me onto 17. It felt great, but man, I was going through strings every 2 weeks.
Sure.
So it was like, all right, this is kind of crazy. So I go 16 now, and I play now, switch back to my Babolat Pure Aero VS.
And that's what, 1620, if I remember correctly?
1620, yeah.
Interesting. At, you said 200 pounds was what you said you strung it at?
56.
All right, I'm gonna leave you guys with another little nugget here, okay? And again, this is pretty sure I picked this up from Casey Moss back in the day. When you think about it, those thinner strings again offer a lot of advantage the thicker strings don't, but if you're tearing through strings, you got to go thicker. So let's say you're playing with 17 gauge, right? And it has all those benefits, and then we could go durability, and you're breaking them too soon. Do you ever break cross strings? Not if you're playing full polyester. Well, theoretically, what would be the next step from full 17, or let's just say 17 gauge mains that you're breaking would be, okay, that's a little confusing, but like 16L would probably be or let's just say 16. 16 on the ones that are breaking, 17 on the crosses. So half of the racket isn't as thick because you're not going to break those ones. It's, again, these are the kind of discussions where it's like, oh, that's interesting. There could be a middle ground I didn't know about, rather than just, I just buy the pack that the stringer told me. They told me to upgrade. So it's kind of a fun world to live in, because for normal people, again, that are playing for fun, there's not much to lose, but there's a lot to gain. Comparatively, we're not great players. Hate to say it, gentlemen, but compared to the pros, we're not great. And we're playing USTA League. So hate to tell you, Lou, but nobody cares. So if you could gain a little more, if I could play a little better, I've never been a great player people aspire to. If I could gain something by making a cheap, quick, reversible adjustment, why not?
I never thought of it. That's actually a solid idea. I'm gonna next string. I mean, if we don't string with the stuff that maybe I'll do one of the rackets that way, and I'll just try it out and see if I can dump the tension too. And at some point, and
got nothing to lose. I would say Gerard on the 1820 has room to go lower, because that's gonna be super stiff no matter what tension you do.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. I think I'd throw one other thing out there for you guys. Do you have lead tape on your rackets?
I do.
Okay. Why, Lou? And a lot, a little?
4 grams. I've experimented now with a ton of stuff. Like I had a buddy of mine that was a perpetual tinkerer, and dude would like buy and sell rackets. He always was playing with a different one, and he would just buy them, trade them, and sell them, and you like never knew. And it was customizing them, and it was like the kind of guy that would be playing bad and then whip out a different racket and a different racket in the middle of a match. It was kind of crazy, but he put me onto a few different things. I was always afraid of changing, because I grew up with the notion that if like something is wrong, it's my footwork and my technique, right? But then I realized, well, there are some gains that you can get from customizing your racket.
Sure.
Quickly found out that there isn't a way to have like cover every single area of proficiency in the racket. You gain some, you lose some, right?
Yeah.
So I started with let tape 12 o'clock.
Okay.
No, I actually started with I think it was like, what is it? 3, 4, like 5 and 7 o'clock, something like that, somewhere around there, with the Aero VS, because it felt really. I mean, it's a 7 points headlight racket. Like I had to put everything into it, so I was like, I need a little bit more weight in the racket to help me get the ball through, right, to counterpunch a little bit. So I started very, very conservative.
Mhm.
Then I went to 12 o'clock. Then I went to like 3 and 9. I ended up for a while with a combination of 12 o'clock, a little bit more on 12 o'clock, like about a gram, and then just half a gram on 3 and 9. And that sort of worked to make it not super heavy, head light. And now I tried something that I saw online. There's a guy is a bald guy on YouTube. I can't remember his name, but he comes up every once in a while. He's like a younger guy,
Okay.
kind of like our age. And you mentioned something about putting specifically that Alcaraz was doing. And again, going back to this is kind of the notion, right? But I was curious. I was curious
Sure.
to see what would
An
happen.
experiment.
Somebody like him was supposed to be playing with a similar racket, something like that, and he did something, and particularly helped with balance. Well, I was told to help with balance and with adding weight to the racket without adding swing weight. So
Okay.
he put weight in the throat, which I had never thought about. So I went. I think the prescription was 5 grams at the throat. I did 4 because it was easier. I used
Okay.
4-inch strips.
Sure.
And I haven't looked back since. It added the extra bit of weight that I needed to work a little bit less hard,
Yep.
especially when counterpunching. It added a little bit of stability, but it didn't feel particularly heavy on my hand, which was great because, long story short, I had switched back a few years ago to a Speed Pro 1820 pattern, not headlight whatsoever. I partially torn ligament in my wrist from when using that racket. So I kind of went back to my headlight setup. That's what works for me.
Okay. Okay. I think one of the pieces of information that I share with people the most is, again, back to experimentation is the key. And we talk about different strings, different string brands. I personally, I don't think there's a lot of variability between. We're talking mostly polyester. I don't think there's, which we are. That's kind of the where tennis is going. There's not a ton of variability between plastics, right? That's essentially what we're talking about. Different plastics. And as much as I have my favorites, and I think there are some outliers that I really love, I think when you're talking string and tension, that's one conversation. The other conversation that happens a lot is the conversation around weight. And one of the things I tell a lot of juniors around the country I talk to, college players, that I'm not near them. I can't go watch them hit. I'm not seeing their matches on a daily basis. I don't have my hands on their rackets. Is buy a roll of lead tape and throw it all over the dang place and just start to, again, experiment, get comfortable with it. So one of the things I try to tell a lot of people about lead tape is that it's fully reversible, right? You can just peel it off and throw it away. It's fully customizable. You can cut different lengths and you can put it in different places, different amounts. And it almost doesn't matter what the measurements are. So if it's 6 points headlight or 312 grams, that doesn't matter. What matters is the physics. And so if we're talking especially about high-level juniors, college players, and pros, if you think back to high school physics, force equals mass times acceleration. Well, most of these high-level juniors, college players, and pros are already maximizing their acceleration. What are they doing to do that? They're eating right. Their nutrition is right. They're training, working out in the gym every week. They're hitting thousands of balls every single day. They're honing their technique to get more acceleration. They're playing lots of matches so they can have that acceleration under duress and all these things. What are they doing for the other half of the equation, which is the mass? They still play with the same racket they did when they were 12. And I think the easiest way for you to impart more force to the ball is to add some lead tape and experiment. You don't need a new racket. Don't let somebody sell you on a new racket. The quickest fix is the racket you already know and like, just with some weight on it. And again, you can move it around. If you have multiple rackets, you can do different setups and switch every couple days, couple hours, see what you like, what you notice. Everything's a trade-off. But I will give you one fun story, I think, that summarizes this. So I was very lucky to be working with some players in San Diego that put me in touch with Brandon Nakashima. And there's a great coach out here named Christian Groh, who was working with Nakashima when he was younger. and introduced me and said, listen, this kid's going to be really special. You need to watch him hit. Let's talk about some rackets. And the thing I realized is that Brandon had insane timing and insane hands, even as a little scrawny 14-year-old. So time goes on. Brandon's growing up. He's at Kalamazoo. He's playing some pro tournaments, all this stuff, and he's getting really, really, really good. And there was a period of time where he was working out with Pat Cash, who won Wimbledon in 1987. So I was very humbled. I had known Pat from another player we were known with, nicest guy ever. I was trying to keep this project, Brandon Nakashima, that I was working on since he was a teenager. I was trying to keep him going on what I thought was the right path, right? Which is he has flawless timing. He never cares what racket he uses, or at least didn't at the time. So I could put almost any setup in his hands and he would find a way to love it. Well, that to me is a huge win because I could give him a pro's racket that would impart so much more force to the ball and go, Brandon, what do you think about that? And you go, oh, that's fine. So he's not thrown off. He's not weirded out. It didn't ruin his time. He's not struggling mentally because the whatever. So I'll never forget. I went to a private court here in San Diego. Pat and Brandon were working out, and I asked Brandon what his end goal was. And he said, "Well, I want to win a major." And I went home that night, and I made some calls, and I sent out some messages to some friends of mine who are professional stringers and customizers. And basically, I correlated a list of the static weight, meaning if you put your racket on a scale, and the swing weight of, at that time, it was like the last 15 years of majors had been won by 7 guys. It was like Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, Del Potro, Murray. I think Thiem had won one. Cilic won the U.S. Open. And I took that list and I found all of their actual specs that they play with. And then I put Brandon's racket specs, what his weight was and what his swing weight was. And I went to him and Pat Cash the next day and said, and here's why you need to have a heavier racket, because you would have the lightest racket and the lowest swing weight of any man to win a major in the last 15 years. And Pat Cash, awesome guy, he was like, oh my God, I've never heard of this. This is insane. I've never thought of it that way. It's a great point. And my point is, that's not me telling Brandon what the right answer is, what he needs to do, put the lead here. It's just looking at, if you want to be in this elite class of monster hitters, you need to have a thunderstick when you're playing against those guys. And I think the same thing goes for college players. If you played with could play with a pro level weight, you could have a distinct advantage against those college players you're playing against. And not that I'm giving some universal prescription that all juniors should play with super heavy rackets, but the physics says if you could, you would have a distinct advantage. And so my point to you guys and your listeners are, experimenting with a little bit of lead, takes a couple grams, could net you some results that you had never seen before. It certainly will protect your body more, because this is something most people will talk about. Heavier rackets are less strain on your body to play with. That's the opposite of what most people are told. They're told light rackets are good for you. And again, I think through some experimentation, there's a lot to be gained.
Oh, that's actually an interesting fact there. Yeah, I need to play around with it. I haven't tried it yet, but I know Lou's done it, like he mentioned here, so maybe I'll give it a shot as well.
It's fun. It's interesting. There's definitely stuff to be gained from it. You just have to understand that, yeah, like you said, Matt, like there's no one size fits all. And is also like there are trade-offs depending on where you put the weight. Understanding where the weight works for you. Like I'd never thought putting the weight in the throat was like kind of like the sweet spot for me, where I still wanted to keep the balance the way it was, but it definitely has more plow through. Helps me a ton, right? So I think that the takeaway here, what I'm hearing is, go try new things, right? Go try new things, see what sticks, be a little experimental, challenge the status quo, which that's kind of how I am in all aspects of life. I think I just needed to hear it from somebody in the tennis space to, just maybe push me out of my comfort zone, and G as well, because we'll be doing this together.
Well, I'm always here to help. As much as I'm spending most of my time as the general manager of a company that runs some tennis clubs, my sort of I don't want to say my side hustle, but my other personality and passion is as a stringer and somebody who likes to solve these complex problems with people and just wants tennis players to look at their equipment and go, why do I do it that way? Is there another way? And
Yeah.
would I like those trade-offs maybe better?
Yeah. Yeah, you're getting all of my equipment questions from here on out. Just hope you know that. So,
Hey, thanks, B. Gerard.
That's awesome. So, Matt, we're going to give you the floor for 1 minute. Where can people find you? What are you working on right now? What's coming up next? And any message you want to leave the Spin the Racket audience with?
Okay, great question. So I'm here in San Diego. I'm the general manager of all the instruction that goes on at Balboa Tennis Club, which is San Diego's largest club, and then University City Racket Club. Come to San Diego. We have the largest adult tennis programs, some super fun stuff you won't find anywhere else at Balboa and University City. And you'll find me on the courts of San Diego, slicing and dicing my opponents to death. A lot of out wide kick serves into the light pole just to drive people nuts. Some underhand serves sometimes. And I also am the person who runs Unstrung Heroes. That's the largest social media Facebook group for stringers and racket customizers. Just a really fun community of people who like asking these kind of questions, having these discussions. A great resource. And yeah, find me online or come to San Diego and hit some balls with us.
We just might. All right. And with that, thanks for watching. I'm Luke.
I'm G. Keep on spinning.